Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Spin Cycle.
I have to tell you something.
Hi, Channing. We just started our
I switched
Facebook
over the
Live.
laundry for you. I put my
you.
own load in there.
You did?
I'm gonna high five you with my other hand.
Thank you.
I hurt my finger at work today and I cut myself, but it's okay. I told everyone they need to say their last words because I was bleeding out before I got a Band-Aid.
And you didn't get anything in like People's KFC or Taco Bell,
No,
right?
I'm a
Okay.
cashier.
Cashier. Didn't touch any food. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Come on in.
Okay, I came out here to grab my phone.
Okay. Sounds good.
Represent the Colonel, you know, employee of the
Colonel.
month.
Yes, he got Employee of the Month. Woo! Woo! Gotta be doing something right in this house. Good evening, everybody. Come on in. Welcome to Spin Cycle. Missed you this week. Hopefully you are having a good week. It is good to see you all. It was a full weekend for us. I had my in-laws in town, and so that was good to spend time with them. And so now just kind of getting ready, acclimated for the week, and a little bit behind on the laundry, as you can see. So thankfully that child does know how to switch it over. So taking a W for the week that way. So if you're new to Spin Cycle, that's where we do our very best not to repeat things over and over and over, whether that's behaviors or patterns or what have you, but thinking about the laundry. And when things are stuck in that spin cycle, you don't want that to be you. You want to be able to move on and out from that place or that space. So how's it going, everybody? We're talking about the role of a step parent tonight. There's not a lot of resources out there, guys. What we have been finding is there's very few books and really resources for that. We found an incredible book by Ron Deal called The Smart Step Family. He also has The Smart Stepmom with Laura Pletheridge, I think is how you say her name, and The Smart Stepdad. So those ones have been invaluable, but what I thought I would share is kind of what I've boiled down in my own definition of what is a step parent, right? Step parenting is not for the faint of heart, let me tell you. It is full of ups and downs and emotions and redefining of maybe expectations. And so I thought we would just kind of break down a little bit of kind of what I learned that my role is. So first and foremost, you are not a biological parent. That probably goes without saying. You did not birth that specific child. But your role is very significant in their lives. So if you are new to Spin Cycle, you know that my husband and I together have 6 kids. So I have 2 biological kids. He has 4 biological kids. And both of their primary parents are at a distance. So we have custody. They live with us all the time, except for like school breaks and things like that. So so they are around both of us, and different kids are around their step parent all the time, every day. So how does that integrate, and what does that look like? Because we get the infamous, but you're not my mom, and you're not, you know, those kind of things. They happen. They're going to get said out of anger or frustration or all of those things. So here's the first thing I thought was really helpful in defining your role as a step parent. So number one, first and foremost, you are another caring adult in their lives. So you are not the biological parent. You will never be a biological parent in that way. But first and foremost, you are another caring adult in that child's life. I kind of think of it, having been around youth ministry for a while, in family ministry, children's ministry, I just assumed the hat of youth leader. So when we started working on blending this tribe, I really just looked at my role as a youth leader. Like, what would a youth mentor or a youth worker do? Think about that. Maybe you have a church background. Maybe you have been used to church ministry or youth ministry where you have had experiences like that. You know, they're there to listen, they're there to guide, they're there to admonish, they're there to support and encourage and inspire. So when I kind of walked into this whole thing and we started blending, I really didn't have another perspective than that of a youth leader. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I am a loving, caring adult. The second thing I would say as a step parent is you are another loving, caring adult that points them to Jesus. So I'm one more voice in their tribe who is pointing them to Jesus, right? That's hard to do. And we have kids at every different season and stage of life. There's a couple teenagers, there's one that's almost to middle school, and there's a few in elementary. And pointing them to Jesus looks very different from here to here. That's in decision making, that's in friendships, that's in, you know, a lot of those kind of soft skills. So I don't necessarily take the role of primary disciplinarian. So I'm kind of like the deputy sheriff. So I help to reinforce that. I help to be a voice to that. And I would say that my husband and I kind of sync that way for the step kids. So we have house rules. I've done a show on that already, but you may want to go back. I don't know, I'm trying to think if I already have that one saved. But I've been putting all of these together on my YouTube channel and also on the website, michellestocking.com. So, number one, you're a caring adult in their life. Number two, you're another caring adult that points them to Jesus specifically, and that looks very different at each stage kind of the game. You're another adult that helps them to make wise choices in their life. So you're thinking about that concept of like a youth leader or a youth mentor, right? It's never going to be the same relationship that they have with their biological parent. And so I think there maybe is some misconception or some rosy glasses out there that would think that you can kind of sub in or swap in. It's not like an equal exchange. So I realize unless you've actually walked it, you know kind of how that switch happens, but it's not an equivalent exchange in that way. Another part of my role as a step parent, or what I'm learning about step parenting, is not only are you a caring adult that's pointing them to Jesus, helping them make wise choices, but you are encouraging their relationship with their biological parent. And that's a hard one for some of us. Depending on your situation, your circumstance, maybe your ex doesn't have a great relationship. Maybe maybe your spouse doesn't have a great relationship with their ex in regards to parenting or co-parenting in that way. Every family and every dynamic is different. And so that could look 1,000 different ways. But regardless of the kind of outstanding circumstances, it's so important from the child's perspective to encourage the relationship with their biological parent. So what does that look like for us? Here's some examples. So for Silas and Sophia, I encourage them to talk on the phone with their dad. He's unable to see them. I know we talked a little bit about that an episode or two ago because of his probation, but he's not able to see them. So I encourage them to maybe send him something in the mail or talk on the phone. If they want to call him, I don't necessarily always wait for him to call, but if they're having a rough night or if they're saying I really miss him, then okay, well, why don't you call and encourage that relationship. For my stepkids, what I follow Team Mom on Instagram. They're a fun couple of co-parents who have a really interesting perspective on co-parenting, so like the parent and the step parent, and they were really encouraging, like surrounding Mother's Day, to do something for the bio mom. And so I don't necessarily have that relationship fully established yet, But in regards to encouraging the relationship with the boy's mom, I said, okay guys, what are we gonna do for Mother's Day? Let's do this little craft project. And I went and I got some things. Of course they were making things at school, but I just thought it was important to give permission for that conversation, give permission for those actions and for that expression from them. And so we packaged it up and we mailed it, and you know, they're free to talk and FaceTime and all of those things. We tried to, in regards to encouraging that relationship with their biological parent, keep a very fluid and open communication in our home about that. They're able to talk about the other parent, whether it's, you know, sad or happy or a memory or just random facts like, oh, I remember when we did this. So that's a really important part of my role as a step parent, is encouraging and helping them to develop that relationship, especially when feelings can be all over the place, you know, especially like sad feelings. Not everybody had a great Mother's Day. I really took encouragement from another friend who said, set your expectations really low. And hi, Chris. Feel free to jump in here and add some thoughts to this, because you are an incredible step parent. And I've just appreciated your feedback. And I'll give you guys a little something that I learned from Kristen as well. But so I just was really trying to keep my expectations low. And of course, like, you know, as a mom, like, it's nice to feel appreciated, and they try to do things for you and all of that. And so as far as just stepkids, like, I wasn't really expecting, you know, anything on that end of things. And so a couple of the kids surprised me, and I was like, oh, that was really sweet, or that was a thoughtful gesture. One of them got flowers, and, you know, a couple of them spent their own money on things, and so that was very sweet and thoughtful. But again, I think it's appropriate to keep those expectations low in that way. And so a couple of them, I don't know if that's true for anybody else out there that has a blended family, is just that, you know, we're kind of a day or two out now from Mother's Day, and there's some residual feelings that are happening. You know, some prolonged sadness. One of the teenagers, you know, admitting, you know what, it really was kind of a rough day for me too. I was kind of feeling emotional all day, and kind of realizing that after the fact. And so I anticipate Father's Day coming up to be the same way, because you got half the clan now celebrating that, where my dad's out of the picture. I don't get to see my dad. I don't know when I will ever be able to see my dad again. And so I think just surrounding holidays and certain mile markers and milestones like that, it's so important to keep a really realistic perspective on what the day looks like, where emotions can be. Maybe not over planning or overthinking things. We were kind of homebodies that day. We didn't really go out to dinner at all. We kind of cooked and kind of had our deal here. Of course, the grandparents were in, so that's a good kind of buffer in that way. But I think just being mindful of that, especially if you're new to blending, or you're new to a step family, because those are things that you could quickly overlook or not realize until you're kind of in it. And then after the fact, like, oh man, I had no idea everyone was going to be completely sideways and emotional, or, you know, days leading up to it or leading after it, right? All kinds of feels, and not always good ones. Absolutely. This is just a random little fact interjection in here. One thing I appreciated about Kristen is that when we were setting up our home here, she had said something to me that was so profound, but it was such good insight and wisdom. And she was helping me hang pictures, and she was doing different things like that in our house, in our home. And she was like, okay, now you want to make sure that you have a good representation, like, of all the kids and both sides of the families and things in different rooms, because, you know, after you have a home and a house, you have a nice collection of different things, or maybe sets that go together. And so that was important for me to realize that even in, like, the decorating, hanging pictures and things, that it wasn't like, oh, well, these were all the pictures from my old living room and they're here, and this is like a shrine to Silas and Sophia, and then a different room is dedicated to, you know, the boys or whatever, but that it was a good mixture of both families, and that kids could see everybody represented there. So I don't know if I ever shared that with you, Kristen, or not, but I surely appreciated that conversation. All right, I would say here's a couple more, the remainder of my list. And I try to keep these short because I know you guys are trying to hop on here live and stuff. So I try to keep them to like 20 minutes. Sometimes it goes 30 to 40. But another role of a step parent that I have found is to be able to set them up to forgive the other parent. And this was a hard one for me to swallow. And this is something I remember the exact time and place where my husband and I were when we were having the conversation where he actually spoke those words to me first. And just as we were talking about blending, and we were talking about his relationship with Silas and Sophia and just what that would look like. And you know, that our job is to, even me being the bio mom, the biological mom, and him being the step parent, let's say for Silas and Sophia's situation, one of our primary roles is to set them up in life to be able to forgive their dad at one point in their journey. And, you know, what are we doing in the steps in between to help them navigate that, to help them with their emotions and in their processing and in their expressions and in that relationship, so that one day, maybe it's going to be as a 20-something adult, maybe it's going to be later on in life, but that we've poured into them so that one day that they are able to come to a point where they can reconcile all that and forgive in that way. Does it fix everything? No. I really haven't figured out a way around wounds, whether it's a mother wound or it's a father wound. I think it's just the result of sin and other people's choices, and sometimes our own choices. And I'm sure if we shared each other's stories, we would all be able to pinpoint certain things that we've all had to work on. And so I think just as parents in general, setting our kids up to be able to reconcile a past hurt or a loss of a dream or some type of devastation that way is just really good parenting. And so that one, you know, that one's going to take a while. The last one I have is your role of just being a really good friend. This has looked differently for me with each of my stepsons. Some of them it's a little bit easier. There's different personalities, so there's some that I instantly clicked with. There's others that I've had to work at those relationships with. And I think even in like the two smaller boys and then the two older boys, my role in really being a good friend, I think is demonstrated more with the teenagers. Like I was saying, like I'm more of kind of like the deputy sheriff. So we have house rules and we're enforcing that, and I'm reminding people of that, or I'm, you know, asking questions or finding their whereabouts, or just those kind of like daily things, but also just listening really well and encouraging and celebrating and trying to, you know, inspire and things that you would want from a really good friend. And so I would say that in that way, that is kind of tethered to that idea or concept that I shared at the beginning of this, like with that youth leader hat on, right? Like it's kind of like I'm a youth mentor and I'm, you know, building a relationship with them and building a relationship with their friends and people who matter to them. Is really important. There was a couple friends over yesterday and there was a little snafu of a conversation and some things taken out of context, and so there was a little bit of division in the house, and these parts of friends were here and whatever, and I just took a couple of the friends that were girls and I was like, you know what, let's just go for a walk and we'll kind of just change the scenery a little bit. And so, you know, I've gotten to know them over this past year, and able to just like, all right, let's go out there and let's hang out and just kind of go for a walk, change the scenery, and then kind of regroup when we get back here. But I think being a really good friend speaks volumes, and I think that's a currency that they understand, right, during their teenage years. And I think that that carries a lot, you know. And there's been times where you know, I've referenced that because of maybe a rule was broken, or there was disrespect, or maybe there was like a point of crisis or discipline, you know, and just having to call that out. Like, you know, I thought that we were better friends than that. I remember that conversation specifically, you know, and just saying like, I really expected something different because I put a lot into this relationship, and I really was expecting something else, and just having conversations like that with them. And it has been absolutely, Kristen, a huge currency. She's got lots of teenagers, so she knows. My battery is getting low. All right, so let me just recap this, because I think what I'm going to do is do another section on step parenting and maybe talk a little bit more about kind of, I don't know. I'm going to like, I'll keep sharing some of that stuff. But right now I just wanted you guys to kind of have a peek into my world and my window of how I define that role, kind of how my husband and I define that role, and examples of that, and kind of what our family looks like, because you might catch glimmers here and there and whatever. I don't even know if you noticed that I didn't even put any pictures up of Mother's Day. I really, like, I'm telling you, I set my expectations so low that I didn't even take pictures. I did take pictures by the end of the day of the 2 kids who bought things with their own allowance money, because I really wanted to remember that, because I just was thinking, you know what, that's kind of a mile marker. I want to remember that, like, that was in their heart, and that they did that, and that was really special to me. So, all right, so if you are just joining us, we talked about the role of a step parent, first and foremost, just being a caring adult and in a child's life, right? And not only just a caring adult, but one that specifically points them to Jesus, to things of him, to as we have these 5 family values that we, oh my gosh, just tether everything to, that we've learned at church and through reading. And that's fight for the heart. It is so hard to do when everything else in this world is fighting for them. It's imagining the end. So not who they are today, but who you're hoping that they become, right? Fighting for the heart, imagining the end, making it personal, right? We can't lead them into something that we've not done, you know? And I think of that even for their dating relationships, because Scott and I had rules for ourselves, right? We didn't live together. We weren't intimate in that way. And just saying, you know, we don't expect anything different from you that we weren't willing to do ourselves. And so, make it personal, widen the circle, putting other adults around them and their tribe to help speak into the same things that we're saying to them. So I'm just part of that. I'm part of things that their biological mom is also telling them and encouraging them, right? Things that I know, I don't know her well, like I know her in casual environment, but we don't, you know, like have each other's phone numbers or anything, but things that I'm like, I know for sure she would not like agree with that or approve that or, you know, co-sign on that. And so I'm just one more adult in that circle, helping to point them in that direction. So what did we say? Oh my gosh, I forgot the 5th one. Anyways, it's in the book, Parenting Beyond Your Capacity. That's a really good book. And that we're a loving, caring adult that helps them make wise choices in their life. The 4th one was that we're a loving, caring adult that helps encourage their relationship with their biological parent. And that we are a loving, caring adult that is setting them up to eventually forgive that other parent, or maybe just forgive something else in their life. And then lastly, just being a really good friend and demonstrating what that looks like. So I don't know, do you guys have any questions about any of that? I appreciated like some of your comments. You guys are always so encouraging with your feedback and stuff. I was actually thinking of Kristen, we might need to do like a step family panel or something. So think about that. You can come over because she doesn't live too far. So thought maybe we would just do a little Q&A or a panel or share some ways we didn't get it right. Because there's always those times, right? And like I said, there's the proverbial, you're not my real mom. And, you know, I mean, that has probably been said to me, I don't know, a couple dozen times. Like, I know, but your mom does love you. And just reassuring, like, all of those things, like truth in that, like, but I'm here to be your friend. And true story though, this is one of the little ones that was having a really hard time. We were having this heart-to-heart talk the one night, and it was out of kind of that same concept. Like, I feel like they were just very confused at, like, different parts of that, right? And so I said, you know what, though, is that God knew this is how life would be for you. And so isn't it awesome that he loves you so much that he knew that I would be a good helper for you during this time, right? Because I didn't cause this, you know, this isn't something that anybody wanted, but this is where life is. And isn't it awesome that God loves you so much that he knew you were going to need a helper and that I could be your helper. And so, you know, just trying to break that down for them, like on their elementary level. And that's what I try to do. Like, yes, especially with the little ones, I have to be more of the disciplinarian only because I'm around them more, you know, with like the house rules or, you know, how much tablet time or bedtime or, you know, any of those putting our toys away, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's normal. Like, if you stepped into our house any evening, like, you would hear me just acting like a mom. Like, I'm always a mom. Like, I'm not gonna not be like acting like a mom, if that makes sense. Like, you would still hear me being like, okay guys, I said 5 minutes, you need to put that away. So that is, I don't know that you would really see it as different if you stepped into our house, but this is kind of the, like, behind the scenes undercurrent that undergirds kind of our mission and philosophy, you know, in that way. And man, props to you if you are blending a family. It is hard work. My husband and I were just talking about it. Like, it's stressful. Like, what in life regarding parenting isn't stressful, right? You have these little humans that are learning to do things on their own and exercise their will and all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's going to be stressful. They're going to talk back and try to flex and, you know, all of that stuff. But it's a good stress. Like, it's an appropriate trade-off. We were both just like, you know what though, like, what we've come out of has been not wished on anyone, but the trade-off in that way, like, we would much rather be where we are now and just seeing God at work and being surrendered and all that, and it's so important. So hi guys, thanks for coming on. If you're just hopping on, we are just actually wrapping up, so I'm sorry to have missed you, but I'm saving all of these videos, putting them on my YouTube channel and also on the website, which is michellestockton.com. Oh, and can I say that we had our recipient for our giveaway over on michellestockton.com, and that was Elvira Northington. She had several submissions and wow, just has an incredible story of being a community leader in the foster and adoptive work in Buffalo and beyond, and she's incredibly encouraging and inspiring that way. Hey guys. And she has 8 or 9 kids bio and adopted, and has fostered, oh my gosh, it's probably close to 100 kids on and off. I think she's in her 60s. I don't know if she would want me to tell you that or not, but she has just, she's a fabulous individual. So if you foster or adopt and you are in this area of Western New York, man, I would love to connect you with her. So anyways, congratulations to her, and thank you to Monica and Vintage Stamp Jewels for sponsoring that giveaway. Your stuff is gorgeous. Check them out on Etsy. They're one of the top sellers on Etsy and actually have been on the Today Show and have also done pop-up shops in Macy's. So they are like legit. All right, that concludes our episode 8 of Spin Cycle. Have an awesome week.